All right, I'm going to try to get it right this time. And then I got to get going on chores. Um, so recently I had to deal with a problem where I ran into an infiltrator. And I thought since this happened, I'd bring up this topic. How do you handle dealing with individuals who are infiltrating Gynarchy groups, uh, gatherings, whatever? How do you deal with infiltrators? The first thing you need to do is you need to record everything that they send to you in a private message, because sometimes what these individuals will do is they will delete their comments, they will remove that information. And so having a documented record of what it is that they've communicated to you privately is important, because that can make all the difference between whether or not somebody believes your claims. Because if you're just saying that somebody is saying you're doing something, all you have are your claims. But if you can supply evidence for your claims, then that can go a long way. And so here's what happened in my case. I was unfortunately foolishly handing out my systems and templates to anybody who wanted them. And one of these individuals was not a gynarchist. In fact, he was somebody who said something along the lines of imaginary male-led patriarchy. So he doesn't even think the patriarchy or male-led society is a thing. He doesn't think that's real. He thinks that's fictitious. And so obviously he is engaging in war tactics and strategy with me. And so what I did was I took a screenshot of his comments. And then after I took that screenshot and I sent that information to the owner of that group. This individual was banned from the group. So this is one way that you can help prevent infiltrators from becoming a problem, which is when they demonstrate a thought or a belief system that's not, when they make it clear that they are misrepresenting themselves in the group, when they take the mask off in private. That is when it's most important to take screenshots, to document that information so that when you pass it along to the owners of these groups, that they can be held accountable, so that they don't continue to engage with other people in the group. Because you can't just find out who their titles are, because you have to actually engage with them by being in the group. And so what is happening with these individuals is that they are reading the content, and then they are sending private messages. Now, I don't know what messages he sent to other people, but putting the word out there about him to the owner of the group and to as many other gynarchists as you personally know will at least allow them to either protect themselves in their conversations with these individuals, or to be more selective in the information that they offer to those people. Because if I had known who he was, I would never have given him any of my art, my literary creations. And I definitely won't anymore. And the next time somebody asks, I'm going to basically tell them, due to infiltrators, due to a recent infiltrator who was falsely accusing me. Well, he basically said that my system was abusive or something. I certainly don't see it that way. I don't perceive it that way. But also suggesting that somehow anything I advocated would be criminal is nonsense. Like, for instance, he was saying that sitting on a person's lap is sexual. But of course, he conveniently doesn't explain the fact that the context that it was taking in was not sexual. There was not a sexual interaction that surrounded the person sitting on. For instance, they weren't talking dirty to each other. Neither of the individuals in the hypothetical were naked or engaging in any kind of physical affection. It was not a sexual context. This individual is sexualizing something that, in my opinion, and when I was writing it, was not sexual. And there's other examples of the individual who is offering opinions of what they think, but these opinions are not grounded very well and are not very well thought out. And that's because the individual is attempting to take what I'm saying and claim it's something that it's not. Like, for instance, social isolation. That's not what I advocated for. I wanted my sons to hang out with women and girls. I wanted them to center them. That's not social isolation. Social isolation would be like if you put somebody in a cage and stop them from interacting with anybody except you. That's social isolation to me. But this stuff of just saying, look, these people are a bad influence. I only want you hanging around the girls or women. I want you to clean, cook for them, serve them, whatever. That's not that's not sexual shit. That's not abusive shit. That's not social isolation. I don't even think these people know what these words mean. He's maybe he was from another country. I don't know, but that's not how I looked at it. But in any case, this is one way you can protect yourself. You need evidence. If you don't have it, no one's going to believe you. People will think that you're just trying to hurt another person or malign them. I'm not. And as a result of my efforts to document that interaction, he's gone. He is not coming back. He is not going to be able to interact with anybody in those posts. And other Gynarchists, at least two of them, know who he is, know what his intentions are, and know how he has already interacted with a Gynarchist within the community. And this is what you have to do. You have to communicate with other sincere Gynarchists. You have to inform them so that they can be very selective in what they release to the public and how they go about communicating with people, because this kind of shit does happen. It's sad and pathetic that these individuals are trying to like go through everything. Like I remember there was an Eminem song called "White America," where he was talking about how being white helped his career and stuff like that. And he also mentioned things about free speech. And there was a line where he mentioned going through my lines looking for a fine, like with a fine comb. In other words, these individuals are looking for anything they can to take out of context, to lie about, or to try to make it seem like we're like criminals or bad people or whatever. That's what it seems like they're doing. They're going through combing it. So being able to expose these individuals is a necessary step in protecting the community. Obviously, if they're saying stupid shit like patriarchy or male-led society doesn't exist or whatever, yeah, that right there that's not a Gynarchist. That's something else or someone else, probably a red pillar for all I know. But then the next thing, aside from just documenting the information, is whenever you are writing articles or making videos or producing any Gynarchic content, always ask yourself, if you were your enemy, how would you exploit your existing content? So in other words, if you're writing an article, you'd ask yourself, what would my enemy do to make me look bad? Like, for example, could they isolate this section of the text to make me seem like I'm something that I'm not, or to try to portray me as something that I don't think of myself as and that I have nothing to do with? You have to think about how they would do it. And then, of course, after that incident, and because of what had occurred, we and the owner basically agreed on something, which is that there should be no mention at all of, even though that child rearing, discussions of how to raise people is important, for this, in order to not be maligned or misrepresented, I went through and I deleted all my posts that concerned how child rearing could happen. I also deleted any text, any word that included child, children, whatever, girls, boys. All of that's gone. And I did that so that people couldn't take advantage of it and try to accuse me of something that I'm not, and that I have never supported, I don't believe in. And that is something you have to consider when you are in the Gynarchy community, because there will be people who will be reading and watching your content who are looking for anything to bury you, to take you to court, to hurt you. And you have to write with that in mind. You have to keep in mind that whatever you're writing, somebody is going to look for a weakness in the writing. So you need to make sure that you edit, re-edit. You need to make sure that anything that you're writing can't be used against you by your enemy in a way that is significantly detrimental to you or other Gynarchists. You have to think about that, because if they can exploit a weakness, they will exploit that weakness. So having a strong presentation, possibly getting feedback from other guys saying, do you think this is good? Could there possibly be a problem? It's never a bad thing to actually second guess what you're writing about, because there's always some possibility that Maybe you're just not in the right frame of mind. Maybe you're not thinking about the potential consequences of your language or your words. But nevertheless, you should at least consider the possibility that maybe, at least in the moment, you are not seeing your own writing objectively. You're not seeing it from the same perspective that maybe other people could see it in. And that can be very beneficial to you as a writer, as a video maker, who is doing content that is related to Gynarchy, because you will have these individuals who are eager, who are ready to do the things that people do in war. I mean, if you studied any kind of war documentary, war propaganda is a common thing. There was an incident in the American Revolution where a woman died as a result of an altercation between indigenous people and some colonists. And they projected what happened with that woman onto the entire. They had projected that on, and even the people who talked about it called it brutal propaganda. And it was effective propaganda in that it stirred people up, it made people angry. It in an old way, it supported the war. But that's the thing. You can't think of this as anything less than psychological warfare. These individuals are searching, seeking anything to undermine other people who don't share their vision of society or their thoughts or their feelings. Now, it's really interesting that they talk the way that they do in private versus public, which is the next thing that you need to keep in mind. My advice to you is unless that person has a track record of being passionate or serious, you should probably not even engage them in the first place. In other words, having higher standards for who you're willing to engage with will likely lessen your chances of interacting with an infiltrator, because being willing to adopt the ideology and pretend to be something to the extent where it seems like you're a mirror image of another Gynarchist, that takes dedication, that takes passion, and that takes a hell of a lot of work. And there is no fucking way that most people who are infiltrators are going to put in that kind of time and energy to try to sabotage some other people. Most of them won't. So in my opinion, having higher standards and developing a screening process for who you are willing to interact with privately, and also how you're willing to interact. In other words, you have to hold yourself to higher standards when you are publishing works, and you need to hold the people who are interacting with you to higher standards so that you can protect yourself and the people in your community from these dangerous, harmful individuals who are out for blood. So anyways, I hope that this has been a helpful video. I'm grateful that I was able to amend my mistakes and that I wasn't kicked out of the group. Although I wouldn't blame them if they did. But I'm grateful that I was allowed to amend the mistakes. I'm sorry for all of the problems that I may have caused. I didn't think about it from that perspective. I wasn't thinking about it in a sexual way. I was just thinking about it in terms of practical matters, like household chores and stuff like that, for the most part, and how best to support women and girls. It was not sexual for me. But I understand that there is a time and a place for certain topics of conversation, and I think that the group leader made the right decision in adding an additional rule that said no mention of children whatsoever. I think that's the right decision. I think that's the best way to protect that community going forward, and I fully support and endorse that. And I will also make sure that whenever I'm writing something or doing something, especially after this video, you'll never hear me mention children again. I will be rewatching my videos several times to see if there's any mention of boy, girl, any kind of kid reference. I'm going to axe it out of my videos from this time onwards after this video, and I'm definitely never going to write about them in a public article. I'm just not going to give these people the ammunition to shoot me in the fucking face or to shoot my people in the fucking face. Metaphorically speaking, of course, not literally. Thank you for your time. I hope you all have a great day. I got to get to work.